Hello and welcome to today's show on This Week in Property. I'm your host, Richard Swan, and that lovely, handsome gentleman on the other side of the screen, if you're watching the video representation of the show, that is Mr. David Hartnett, the founder, the CEO of Mountbatten Estates. David, hello, sir, and welcome to the show.
Richard, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be on.
Really looking forward to this. We've got a lot to chat about. In fact, if I just throw a few kind of teaser words to some of the listeners and viewers out there: permitted development, new build, multi-million pound development schemes, covering all sorts of services such as pre-construction planning, architectural-led design, construction management, a very special use of virtual assistants, an explosion in business from the lockdown. I mean, if I just throw some of that stuff away, you can tell how busy this man is. So the fact that I've managed to grab him on the show is a bit of a miracle. But David, before we jump into all of that stuff, all the stuff Mountbatten's doing, all the things you're seeing in the property world as well, because I want to touch upon your opinions, your forecasts, your experiences. What was life like before this for you? How did you get to this stage? What's a kind of a career summary, if you like? Has it always been property?
Um, yes, it has, to be fair.
Just in the blood.
One of my earliest memories was must have been only about 3 or 4, and my dad had me on a building site. So he's the developer still. He's been doing it about 45 years.
Oh, brilliant.
Both in northwest London and back in Ireland. I think tell I'm Irish, but
Yes.
I've always been surrounded by buy-to-lets or HMOs, or we were involved with pubs as well, both here and in Ireland.
Fantastic.
I've got like loads of property people in my family. My dad's brother, Michael, he's an architect. So as you can imagine, there's lots of property people in our family. So I did fight and resist the urge. I did go to uni. I did get a degree in IT, and I thought that was my path at one stage. But I came out, I went straight into being an estate agent, and I guess after that, just stayed within the property world.
Wow. You gave up the fight at that point.
Basically, gave up.
That's fantastic. It's amazing how strong these impressions are in young kids. I talk about this a lot. I've got a load of daughters, and even just walking about, farm tracks and fields with my young 9-year-old at the moment. She's always looking and she's always thinking. She'll ask questions. How many could you fit on that site, Dad? Oh my goodness, what you like? But they're little sponges. So it's obviously happened for yourself. You've seen that and you've kind of fed off. Was your dad the main influence in all of that? Was there different uncles and stuff coming in? Because you mentioned there's a whole host of people in the family.
To be fair, they all kind of were doing their own separate things, and I was doing my own buy-to-let and HMOs at the time. I did become to be fair, there was a stint after uni where I was a stockbroker in the city, and then crash came in 2007, and I was, making a bit of money with buy-to-lets and HMOs. I thought, you know what, I'll just stick to what I know. It's a little bit more safer than the sub years, and from there I kind of just, I did build up the portfolio, and I did go into acquiring my own estate agents, which I ran very successfully for years.
Right. Fantastic.
But it was from the estate agent selling that and buying all my time back. That's when I eventually went into the developments myself full time for myself.
Right, gotcha. Because that's the thing. I mean, these words were thrown around just saying, "Oh, buy-to-lets, HMOs, stuff like that." A lot of the kind of listeners will, yeah, nodding away. Yeah, I know that. That's kind of fairly easy access into this world and stuff. But I'm not going to touch that land stuff. Oh my goodness, developments and planning processes and all that headache. Oh my goodness. I mean, if you think back just now, is there a particular wisdom that you wish you could, go back and tell yourself at the start of that journey that would make life maybe a bit easier for you to prepare yourself?
I think probably the biggest piece of advice I'll give anyone is when I started the journey, I had to sell quite a few assets. It's a bit of an expensive game going into property development. You've got lots of overheads. You've got lots of professionals you're paying for now. Architects and surveyors. lots of legal costs, JV contracts, the list is there. And there's a lot of education you need to do as well, that comes at a
Yes.
price. So what I did, I actually started selling the assets I had, which was good for giving me a lot of funds to crack on and do what I needed to do within the development world. But from an income perspective, it killed my income overnight. And
Of course.
I think lots of people go on these courses and they get encouraged to part with 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 grand to do these big expensive courses. I'm not saying they're bad, but I'm just saying that it's quite a large expense, and it's fine for people who still have an income coming in and they can justify that. But if you have to sell your asset to give that 25 grand away to someone to get the education or to get you to the next step, you need to focus on the cash flow, because these developments, they don't happen overnight.
No.
As you know, Richard, it takes a good year or so to find a good deal. Then it takes you another year, to get the planning and deal with all the issues associated with that. So you could nearly be 2 years before you actually put a brick in the ground.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
So
long term is definitely the phrase for this part of the world, isn't it?
100%. It's a fantastic business, and
yeah,
it's definitely not get rich quick. It's get rich slow. But
that's right.
You have to have other income sources, multiple income streams coming in, whether it's from royalties or stocks and shares or passive income, buy-to-lets and stuff. I'm still passionate about buy-to-lets because I know it's vanilla, I know it's not sexy, but it's a safe haven. It's still, if you look back historically over all these fancy types of property strategies that have come out over the last few years, rent-to-rent, SAs, all these the new ones, we need our deals, all this. The only real safe haven is buy-to-lets because it's reliable, it's steady, sit and forget, and it really is a bit passive once you've got a tenant in there. Look at everything else that you do, the rent-to-rent SA, they're all creating another job for you. If your goal is to do property development, but you're doing rent-to-rent and SA to cash flow, you create another job over there that's going to take you away from your development. That's probably another mistake I did as well. I did a rent-to-rent SA business. It was great, don't get me wrong. It was great for cash flow, but it really consumed all my life and it took me away from development. So that was a decision I had to make. Sell that so I can focus purely on development.
Love it. Yeah, and it's just thinking like an investor, isn't it? You've kind of covered that by I'm going to look at this asset here. This asset can give me a nice monthly buy-to-let income coming through from that asset. Brilliant. As an investor, that's a wise thing to do. And then over here, I've got a really interesting but much longer term potential land deal thing I can do here. Okay, I'm going to look at that as well. They're all different investments, different yields, different time frames, but you do the numbers. You just do the numbers and see if it's going to work for you, don't you? And I think, I suppose, just touching upon that wisdom that you're passing, everything is bigger when it comes to land and new builds and stuff. The risks are bigger, the rewards are bigger, oh yeah, beauty, but the time frame's bigger, the fees are bigger, the time that it takes to go through planning in different stages that aren't in your control as much. They're all bigger, aren't they? It's a kind of a multiplier that you're facing.
You say that, but the risks are bigger, the money's bigger, but you're dealing with better professionals. Why? Because you've got more money to spend on better qualified people. So I know the risks are bigger, but they're mitigated to a certain degree because now you're spending more money for better quality people and more people in your team to de-risk the project. So the bigger the deal, in theory, the more safer it is because it's more pulled apart by many more professionals, if that makes sense.
No, that's brilliant. That's a great input. It really is. Yeah, that speaks volumes. And the power team, as we like to call them, that team around you, is that something you've been really focused on throughout your whole career?
Yeah, 100%. I guess 3 key people I was keen to get as quickly as possible, but I did spend a lot of time to find the right people. One was a planning consultant who I work with now, John McDermott from TDX, fantastic guy. He's done lots of projects with me. but incredibly gifted guy. He's a chartered town planner. So again, it's using, excuse my French, the right tools for the right job, because John's a chartered town planner. I know for hand and heart that guy's never going to be making a mistake, because he's highly qualified compared to, say, planning consultants who just have a little bit of planning knowledge, but they want to charge for their time. They think it's crucially a good quality architect, and I found we have now with Alia, and a project manager. The person who, because I'm not going to have time to be going on site, managing the contractor, subcontracts, dealing with the adjacent contracts, all that kind of stuff. So I need someone who's going to be my eyes and ears on site, especially if you've got 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 developments. There's no way you're going to be able to run all of them yourself and run a business and run a team and deal with architects and the planning and everything else you've got going on. So I would say the 3 key people in my team at the moment would be Richard, Alia, and John.
Brilliant, tremendous stuff. See, I'm enjoying this already. This is fantastic. You've laid a great foundation there. So Mountbatten, Mountbatten Estate. I mean, where did all that come from? What was the whole birth?
So it's a bit of an interesting story. So back in March of 2020, I found myself in a position where I sold the estate agents and whatever other bits of interest I had, and I wanted to set up a property development company that just focused on doing large deals.
Right.
And I decided I would just get my head down. I knew what needs to be done. Everything started with finding sites. There's no point building a team. There's getting excited about growing any other part of your business unless you've got a deal. So I got my head down, opened up the laptop, and then, as you know, I love Nimbus Maps, their software that helped me find off-market sites, and I started putting in, no exaggeration, anywhere between 14 and 16 hours a day, every single day, 7 days a week. You can say I didn't actually have a life. And, I'll always remember March of 2020, because literally about not even 2 weeks later, COVID happened.
Wow.
I'm quite a positive person. I always see the good in everything, even in the worst times in your life. There's always something good to be taken from it. So look, while the world was all collapsing around everyone, I thought, you know what, there's something to be taken from this. I've got no distractions, I've got no meetings, I don't have to be on the road, I've got no networking meetings. So I can just fully commit to site finding, which I did. So between March and kind of October time, I found anywhere between 500 and 900 sites, every single month myself. And these were really interesting sites, corner plots, land infill sites. I knew the PD rules was going to be changing in 2021. It's the beauty about working with a planning consultant who's got a finger on the pulse. I've spent thousands and thousands and thousands of hours with John learning the intricacies of PD and prior notification and fixing planning refusals and dealing with lapse planning and all that kind of stuff. So that gave me a bit of a competitive edge. Now I knew when I went in, I'm going to focus on one council, and I'm going to exhaust it to death. So I'm going to find corner plots, infills, airspace PD, vacant buildings, leases expiring. I'm going to be finding those planning refusals that I know I can fix. Finding those lapse planning applications that maybe did have a consent at one stage, but for one reason or another, it just hasn't been built out. Sort of been going after all the new stuff. And so what's going into that planning system? All right, let's get ahead of the curve and actually find what's just been submitted, so we can speak to those owners and find out if they want to sell that site once the planning comes through. And then we're finding all those virgin sites, those back corner, the back garden.
That's right, the strips, right?
Actually, all that kind of stuff. And so on brownfield sites now, so the councils get encouraged by central government to work with developers and encourage developers to find brownfield sites. So the brownfield site definition of the brownfield site is previously developed. These are petrol stations, car parks, something that has been maybe had a structure on it, or maybe still has it on it. That's about the design. So I knew that. So I knew that PD was changing. I knew with the new Class MA, you could even do commercial to resi even on the high street, which already you could never do that. And to a certain degree, you can actually do it in conservation areas as well now. So long story short, and I knew all this was changing. I thought, okay, let's go after all this new interesting stuff. And I knew as well, to a certain degree, Article 4. So these are areas where the councils stop you doing a certain type of development. Normally, it's two types of development: office to resi or residential to HMO. They don't want you to
That's right.
Because they either want to protect their office stuff that they're probably diminishing, or maybe they've got too many HMOs. So what I knew that no one else knew was between August of 2021 to August 2022, office buildings, as well as all the other old use classes, A1, A2, A1A, B1, D1 and D2, all that was getting amalgamated into this new superclass, or Class E. But office buildings were the only one that were if it was already in an Article 4 area, the council had an extra year to reinstate Article 4 area.
Right.
And I knew it was quite expensive to do, and some councils would and some councils wouldn't do it. So I took a chance. I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go after every single office building in every single Article 4 area.
Oh my God.
In this whole year.
Wow.
Probably 90% won't reinstate it, and guess what? They didn't.
They didn't.
So that was us, and then come August of 2022, we had a pipeline of office buildings. People were negotiating on, because now they didn't even know that they still assumed that their office building was still in an Article 4, but obviously we knew different. So just you don't get to that level of learning and foresight and be able to see these angles without having people like John on your team. You need these professionals telling you this insider knowledge to give you that kind of competitive edge against everyone else.
Correct. That's a brilliant mindset that you've got as well. It really is, because there's a lot of, sadly, kind of close-minded, just narrow-visioned people in the development game. No, this is the way I've always done it, and I'm just doing this. I'm a one-trick pony. But come on, where you very obviously got a much more open mind about, I can learn from this guy here, and I can learn some of his tricks that he's got over here in planning. And right, wait a minute, if I join the dot with him and the dot with him, I've got opportunity here. And of course, that's a businessman, that's an entrepreneur seeing opportunities, which is just tremendous. The Nimbus maps you mentioned, we've done the show in the past as well. If anyone's not seen that, just go onto the website and have a wee search around. But was that a big game changer for you? Did you see that as a massive kind of tech advantage that you could then use in your kind of your building world, if you like?
100%. And it was easy for me because I came from that estate agency background. So I knew, okay, I'm going to let you in on a few things that maybe you know already, or maybe your listeners know already, but I'm going to be very blunt and tell you. If you're hoping to build a sustainable pipeline of sites through an estate agent, you're going to struggle. Because the site always goes to the highest bidder. And trust me, you will never be the highest bidder. Why? Because you need to secure it on a subject to planning, because you can't take the risk of not getting the planning while someone else can. You need to get senior debt from a bank. Someone else is sitting on a load of cash, so he's not paying back those bank costs. So there's always people out there who are going to pay more than you. So if you know that you'll always be on the back foot to that, don't rely on estate agents. They're fantastic, don't get me wrong, but to build a sustainable business model, especially as a developer, you need to have that, maybe them in your pipeline, but you definitely need something else that's going to create the opportunity. And I always knew that, because being an agent, I saw how it worked, and they always went to the highest bidder, and I thought, I didn't want to be in that position. So I did use Land Insights for 50 years. When Nimbus came along, it was a bit cheaper. I was very impressed with all the free tools they were giving away. I was very impressed with the amount of webinars they were doing.
Mm.
And I just thought, yeah, it's definitely something I need to explore a little bit further. So I think when I did set up Mountbatten, it was just me. It gave me a really good opportunity to apply everything I knew about the software.
Mm.
And in that time period between kind of March and October, like I said, I just lived on the software for 14, 16 hours a day. I didn't have a life, but
Amazing.
I did what I had to do. But
Yeah.
and it was funny because by October, I mean, I was losing a little bit of faith because by this time I'd sent out thousands of letters, that a couple of dozen people. I still didn't have a deal. Then
Yeah.
all three sites all came at once,
Oh wow, of course.
and they were all accepted, and they're all JVs as well.
Oh
So
God.
the problem was, well, I've got too many sites and I've got no money. I need to
Yeah.
work quick to find the money.
Yeah.
It's like this chicken and egg, isn't it? What do I
Yeah.
find? Do I find the money? Do I find the site? And I've done both, to be honest with Richard. I found the money, and then it took me a year to find the site.
Yeah.
Years ago, and then we're back to the investor. And investors' money are always deployed. They haven't worked all the time.
Yeah.
I was gone, and then I lost the site because
Of course.
money. So I thought, okay, well, let's find the site, and then I'll find the money. So then that became a bit problematic as well because I didn't have enough investors. I had two or three, but guess what? I didn't realize I needed a lot more because they're either heavily invested or maybe not every site ticks every investor's criteria. One
That's
has
right. That's
one
right.
like build, one wants big deals, one wants small, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So then I thought, okay, the only true way of doing this is to try and find both at the same time. I was quite fortunate at this time. Why? Because I came across a couple of people who came on working with me to raise funds. They had a lot of contacts. So one really became my equity director, and another chap who I've been working for quite a while with now, Simon. He raised 150 million for a developer in London over 12 years, but that developer isn't working anymore. So now he's come on board and he's raising funds for my developments.
Right.
So,
Fantastic.
So again, it's right using the right people for the right job. I could go out there and I have raised money, but it's a full-time job.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
do I want to be just purely raising money all the time? Absolutely not.
No.
So the bigger we are growing, the more people I'm taking on. So now we've got 5 or 6 girls who just find all the sites using all the tools I've given them and the knowledge and the planning knowledge.
Right.
We've got the director, we've got Simon, and we've got John for the planning, Nalia for the architecture, Richard for the project management. So the bigger the company gets, the more I'm finding myself. I'm actually pulling myself out of all these different.
Yes.
I was stuck in the weeds myself all along.
That's it. Yeah.
Myself back, and all I'm doing now is basically managing people, which is a fantastic position to be in.
No, definitely. That's tremendous. A real team manager. Yeah, exactly. I mean, let people do what they do. They're the expert in that area. I'm gonna give you everything you need, all the backup, all the support, everything else, and I can float above you, I can help, I can support, but I'm going to let you do your job because guess what? You're going to make my life more bearable rather than that poor Irishman throwing away 15 hours every single day. Oh my goodness. Thank goodness you got out of it.
Well, yeah, you're 100% right. Look, the software was a catalyst for all this. Yeah. It allowed me to go direct to vendor, cut out all the middlemen.
Yeah,
that's why we've done so well. If I'm very honest with you, Richard, it's because we've gone direct. There's no middlemen, there's no agenda, there's no one who just wants a fee straight away. We're direct to vendor. We're an open book. We tell them what we do and how we do it. We normally offer. And again, I'm quite proud of this. I didn't learn this in any course or manual or book or anything. But when I started, I didn't have huge pockets. I had enough to keep us going and keep the lights on and maybe take on some people and all that. But we didn't have, when those 3 sites came, I didn't have several £1 million in one go.
Yeah.
So one thing I did, which I'm quite proud about, was I had to be quite creative. And I still didn't have all the investors at this stage. So I thought, well, if I can't buy because I don't have the money and I don't want to sell it because all these deals are too good to sell and just take like a 1 or 2% finder's fee, that's not, I didn't work this hard to get here just to sort it on for free. I said, okay,
Yeah.
well, there's only one other option, which is a joint venture.
Yes.
I thought long and hard about this. I thought, okay, well, what's a joint venture? What does it look like? So I thought, okay, well, let's have a conversation with the landowner. Let's find out what they want, what their requirements are, where
Yeah.
they want to see this exit, what their, what they classify as a JV,
Yeah.
what are, their expectations. And then they said, well, Dave, look, I had this with one of the JVs. We'll go through a few sites and a few examples in a minute. But one was like she had a refusal, she couldn't fix it, and she wanted me to come and fix the refusal, get the planning, and develop it out. And then when I asked her, okay, well, you're going to be in a position soon where if we do develop it out, well, I'm going to be giving you a big chunk of money here to cover your land value and say cover the profits. Do you want that in cash, or do you want me to kind of be a bit more creative? So what do you mean? I said, well, I asked her what's important to you, and she said, well, it's leaving a legacy. So I said, okay, fair enough.
Oh wow.
I give you 3 of those apartments, so you've got something to give to your daughter. So it's just finding out all those little things for .gd. So I became really good at delving into people's wants and requirements and needs, and then creating something, a structure or a business or something that would tick all the boxes for me and them. So because you got to remember, these JVs are like a marriage for the next 3 years.
That's right.
And you need to know that you can get on with them, and they're going to trust you, and you know what to do, and you know how to do it. But more importantly, they're going to let you go ahead and do without kind of micromanaging you all the time. And then you got to be clear as well on your outcomes and your exits, because my definition of long term might be 10 years. Their definition of long term might be 2 years. So it's just ticking all those boxes, making sure we can all gel together, work together over the next 2 or 3 years, and they know that the outcome is the same outcome that we all want. So that's what we did really well with the JVs, to be fair.
That's fantastic.
Software and going direct to vendor. If you're not doing that, you're not growing a business. You're not creating enough opportunities for yourself.
That's right.
I'm a firm believer. You can either be proactive or reactive. Reactive is I'm sitting there waiting for the phone to call, hoping the estate agent's going to call me, but he won't. And even when he does, he's going to send it to 20 other people. Proactive is going out there, fighting for the business, finding the opportunities, sending the letters, make those phone calls, building those relationships, making those offers, getting those deals tied up, and doing enough of that so you've got enough sites there. So in a few months ago, I had about six deals I tied up, got accepted, all fell out of bed in 1 month. Did I blink once? Did I lose one single minute of sleep? Absolutely not. Why? Because we have a much bigger pipeline to focus on. But I'm sure if I was at the start of my journey, if one deal fell out of bed, I'd be losing my hair over it. But
that's right.
But that's the thing. People have one deal and they get obsessed by it.
Yes.
And they fudge the figures and they manipulate the figures and they stretch the GDV and they reduce the bill cost and they reduce professional fees to make that deal work because they're desperate, because they've waited like a year and a half to get to this stage. The worst thing you can ever do, instead of being obsessed over one deal, why don't you put yourself in a position where you've got like 15 deals on the table? And trust me, you can do it if you create enough opportunity for yourself. You can have 10 or 15 deals on the table, then you can pick and choose which ones you want to sell or click on or do yourself, or if they 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 fall out of bed, you're not going to worry about it.
Exactly. No, good man. Again, another great mindset lesson there about how to approach things. And you're right that if you put that desperation into someone, there's only one site in the whole of the UK. Come on, don't be daft. Come on, step back a bit. Just remove that desperation, remove that bad energy, and then you look at things completely differently. You really do. And I love what you were covering with doing the JVs and stuff and speaking to the vendors. That's very clever. Now, some people might just call that the crack of the Irishman, or someone else might say that's an emotional intelligence, but whatever you want to call it, that's so key I think there's a lot of people who just think about the numbers, the spreadsheet, the contract. It's all about. It's not about that. It's other people. You're dealing with other people, so you've got to know how do they think. What approach are they coming from? And you gave a great example there. The word, long hash term. What does that mean? This guy here, 10 years. This girl here, 3 years. Oh my God! Wait a minute. Why is that different? Because it's people. You're dealing with people. So it's very clever you to kind of see that approach.
The
It really is.
the yeah, the JV is quite interesting in terms of not just working together, but say if you get it right. I mean, we've got one of the examples, the one I just actually given you. That property was unencumbered.
Wow.
There's no mortgage
Mhm.
lending against it. So when I went to the senior lender to inform them that this is what my plan is with this building, I'm going to be demolishing it. We're going to build 8 apartments here.
Mhm.
They said 100%. We'd love to support it. Here's our terms. And
Right.
I thought, okay, well, this can be improved, right? Because there's no debt associated on it, which means there's less risk in the deal for the lender. So normally
Yes.
you'd have to come up with a good sum of funds
Mhm.
between day one and the first drawdown to cover all the prelims and site clearance and everything else. But because you're JVing with the landowner and it's unencumbered, guess what? There's less risk for the senior lender. So I've managed to get that senior lender to agree to forward fund and not pay us in arrears. So that's just another 165,000 I didn't have to come up with.
Love
Just
it.
because I was JVing with the landowner.
Yeah, that's
One thing,
fantastic.
one good thing I'm going to tell everyone. I mean, this is my one of my key things I use in nearly every JV conversation I have with everyone.
Mhm.
I always say, look, I'm going to give you 2 offers. One is
Right.
I'm going to offer you on a subject of planning, so I can get it, and then I'll buy once I've got the planning tickets. The second thing is, look, if you don't really need the money right now, and you want to maximize the value of the asset that you have, the only true way you're going to do that is for JV. All right, okay, well, what does that look like, Dave? That looks like coming along with the whole journey. I'll do X, Y, and Z. I'll sort out the planning, and I'll bring the professional team, and I'll build it all out. I'll take care of the banks, and I'll do it all. And then at the end, you'll still get the land value, which I'm offering you right now.
Yeah.
But now, this is the profits at the back end. This works really well for probably 1 or 2 or 3 types of people. People who have had commercial buildings for a very long time, but the tenant has left. They were just commercial investors. They don't know anything about planning or developing. They just had money to put into commercial. They were sitting on a 25 or 30 full and insuring and repairing lease over that whole time, and then basically tenant leads. But now they're just maybe looking to sell it or looking at what they can do with the building, but they just don't have the competence and skill to be able to get the planning and do the development. That's why they want to work with, the likes of us.
Exactly.
And the thing is, there's no mortgage on them. So there's no real pressure to just take whatever offer is on the table now.
Yes.
So me going and saying, do you know what, I'll give you, say, £1 million now. That's fine. They might consider it, but it's a lot more attractive if I say to him, I'm willing to give you 2 million in, say, 2 years' time. If you want to come along with, let me get that planning uplift, let me develop it all out. Let's build those, say, 30 apartments, and now you get 2 million as opposed to 1 million for waiting 2 years. It's very hard to turn down that kind of money if all you're doing is
and without having any pressure, as you say,
exactly.
nothing on you. Oh, actually, okay, let's go on the journey. Yeah. That's tremendous. I love that. Listen, I want to be respectful for your time. Keep a wee eye on the clock here, but I'm so keen just to keep chatting with you.
So yeah, let's go. I mean, I've cleared my diary for you, Richard.
Oh, good man. What a guy. What a guy. Oh, I'm so privileged. When you look back over your sites, over your projects, what ones pop out for you? If I say things like, some of the most challenging or some of the most satisfying. Have you got memories in there? Like, oh, I'll tell you, Richard, there was this one I had. Oh my goodness, challenge it. The good, the bad, the challenging, the most satisfying. What pops into your head?
The most challenging was probably the first one we did, which happens to be the smallest one we did.
Right.
And that was one of the 3 that we found that time in October of 2020.
Right.
So we tied it all up, and I'll tell you what it is. So it's in Sunbury in Thames, West London. I do a lot.
Oh, right. Is this the single unit one? Where right.
One, yeah.
Right, brilliant. Crack on. Brilliant.
And, a lot of people can relate to this. It's a very small site. It's only what happened was this chap owned this house. He was getting into the 60s, stroke 70s, coming to the end of his career as a small SME builder all his life. And then he tried to split off the end of his garden. Then he went to the next door neighbour, tried to split the end of his garden. And then he had 2 freehold little plots. And he submitted planning for a 2-bedroom detached house. He eventually got it on appeal, and then he started building it out. Dug out all the foundations, put the slab in, put the full wall up, was up to the rafters. And then what happened was, the problem is the only way to access the site was down a private road. And what had happened, the housing association had taken over from Spelthorne, and they didn't really want to play ball, and the site became landlocked. And then he was actually up the rafters at this stage, and then he just basically ordered it all up and left. He kind of wrote off maybe whatever a bit of investment he put into it.
Yeah.
That was 14 years ago.
Wow.
It still surprised me today that we find this stuff. It's still out there, Richard.
Yeah.
But the problem is, I'll tell you why I found it and no one else found it.
Right.
Because I was using the right software, the right tool for the job. And we were like, I'm a big fan of not just Nimbus Maps, but on Nimbus Maps, you've got something called the master map view. And what that does is it just, you remember back in the day before pop software, you used to roll out the big OS map.
Yeah.
Remember those days, Rich? And then you get your ruler and your pencil and you kind of measure everything to see how many houses I can fit in that little tiny space. Well, I'm a little bit old school like you, so I still like the idea of looking at those OS maps and measuring that stuff. And we saw this gap and we investigated. We knew there should be something there, but when we dropped the little guy, the yellow guy on the road, we saw it was half built. So I said, okay, well, we need to explore this. So I sent a letter. Again, the beauty of these letters, you're not relying on anyone on yourself and the work yourself. So I sent the letter. And this girl came back to me and she filled me in. She told me it was her father who actually did all this. Site's landlocked. No one could ever fix this issue. And I said, okay, well, I like a challenge. Let me have a crack at this and I'll see what I can do. And I think if you're going to be successful in any walk of life, you need to be a good problem solver. That's what I am, a really good problem solver. You can't just give up at the first offense or, throw your towel in. So it was starting, I mean, you remember we were probably a few months in COVID at this stage.
Right.
Tried to liaise with the housing association. They weren't forthcoming. They weren't coming back to me whatsoever. And then I had this idea. Okay, well, and I must just maybe put in 24 phone calls and maybe 24 emails. No one ever came back. I thought, okay, well, let me try it at a different angle. So I went on to LinkedIn. I searched for the company and I found all the top directors, the senior directors, and top, team managers and whatever. And I messaged all of them, told them what my problem was, and guess what? Within 24 hours, one of the top CEO guys messaged me back. Dave, I do apologize. So sorry for all your trouble. Speak to this guy. He'll deal with whatever needs you have.
Oh, brilliant.
Still talking here back and forth, getting the deed of easement signed. One thing they don't tell you, you assume that you're a solicitor and you might need to pay for the housing association solicitor. You do. You've got to pay for that. But then the housing association, they'll have a senior lender on it, so it goes to the senior lender as well. And you've got to pay for their solicitor because they're just like money people.
Yeah.
So pay for these sets of solicitors and then a deed of easement. There is you can they will try their luck. They will say, okay, well, you want to come across our land, you need to pay for that kind of access. Like a ransom strip. Yeah. But I knew that this house was half built, redundant, bit of a health hazard, and I knew it was downvaluing all the rest of their properties on their street. They own everything.
Of course.
So I thought, okay, well, I won't pay you what you want. well, what I will do is I will finish the development, so it's not a health hazard, the uplifting value. And yeah, we agreed to it. So that was another kind of 20 odd thousand I'd saved, because I'd factored in they were probably going to be charging me at least 20% of the land value of the rental strip. So that's another 20 grand we just saved.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. It was quite interesting to get building control out 14 years later when they first visited the site 14 years ago. That was quite an interesting one. And then we had to like drill boreholes in to investigate what was under the ground and everything else. But yeah,
wow.
Yeah, we ended up putting in planning application for a third bedroom in the loft. That John helped us with that, and then we got that really quickly. And yeah, we've just finished the building actually. It's on the market now, but that was probably the most problematic. For the size of it, but it's problematic for all the reasons I told you. You know, but one good piece of advice on that is the reason that site was still available was it was down a cul-de-sac, so one way in, one way out. And the only people who knew about it were the people who lived in that cul-de-sac. If it was on the main road or a secondary road, you would have been found all day long.
Of course.
You're going to be looking for development, so you have to be going to that level of due diligence and research. You know, looking what's behind these houses, what's the length of those gardens, how creative can I be back there, so no one else can see that. So that's how we found that one, because no one else had found it. I would say that was most problematic. The one, well, I'm pleased about the JV we're doing in Walton and Thames with that lady who, you know, she was really upset that she was selling to a developer.
Oh yeah, this is the one she wants to leave her legacy and stuff. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah,
right, gotcha.
Yeah, she was really, really pleased. I mean, lots of people think the JV is hard, but I promise you, it's not. It's only hard if you never ask.
Yeah,
but you would be surprised how many people would love the JV with a developer, because that lady doesn't know about planning. She's not a developer. She's not going to get the money she wants selling the building falling apart. So it's not worth what she'd like to get, but it's worth double what I'm willing to offer for it once built it out, because it's worth that. So you know, she was really really pleased that we managed to fix an issue, move ahead with the development, and leave something that our children and grandchildren will benefit from.
I mean, that's something special. It really is. You know, you're really properly connecting with someone there. You're giving an amazing value. You've ticked off a project, brilliant. You've got some bricks in the ground, great. But no, it's much bigger than that. You know, you've really touched someone's life, and then it leads on to other lives as well. It's a tremendous thing.
You're fixing something that they can't fix. And also, you know, like I said, there's people out there who just don't need the money, so they're really keen to just maximize what they have. Hence why they're keen to give you the land, so they can get maybe double or triple what it's worth now in 2 or 3 years' time. That's right.
All different motivations, don't we? You know, this is a thing. Absolutely brilliant. I tell you, some level of persistence with that first one, and going through all the lawyers, and oh my goodness, good on you.
I'll say the second one I'm proud about is the one we're doing now, 5 Fleet.
Right.
We're due to actually exchange this week on this one. We're actually, again, this is actually using the new Class ZA. It's a new PD rule that allows to demolish a commercial building and rebuild it as resi, plus add on 2 additional stories on top.
Wow.
So what was interesting about this one, Rich, is it didn't stack as an office building.
Right.
Loads of people would have looked at it and thought, well, I can only get maybe 16 apartments from it, but it doesn't stack for what the vendor wanted. But I knew, again, ahead of everyone else, that this new PD right was coming out, and it's lower. So what happened was we approached him and we made the offer based on what he was asking, because we knew we could squeeze 32 apartments out of it by using this new PD right. So we doubled the amount of apartments that we would have normally got from that side. So you can imagine people worked all day long when you were kind of working with those kind of numbers. So we tied it up on the subject planning. We've got our planning application ready. We're just going to exchange it this week, and hopefully next week we're going to fire that in, and you know, in 2 or 3 months' time we'll have our consent to building that one out.
Fantastic. That is brilliant. On that aspect of being ahead of the curve, forward planning, keeping your finger on the pulse and what have you, where do you see Mountbatten in the future? What do you have any, other goals, or does it, I really want to do that kind of project, or I'd really like to tackle this kind of area? Have you got something ahead of you in your mind?
Yeah, we've got a few things we're working on right now. I think once we do the Harrow deal, that'll be life changing.
Right.
We're exchanging on Harrow in the next 3 weeks, and that's a building we're buying. The owners are leasing it back off us.
Right.
That's the PD scheme.
Yeah.
But it's surrounded by taller buildings, and we've got Alia, the architect, to come up with a 16-story building, 91 apartments, and there's a commercial element as well. That'll be 33 million GDP.
Yeah.
That'll be a project. It'll take me a good 18 months to get the planning on that, but that'll be a project we'll be developing out. I think once you get to that stage, you'll never be questioned again by any bank or funder or investor or anything, because you'll have ticked every type of box known to man.
Yeah.
So I'm really keen to work towards that. I'm also keen, touching on what we mentioned about the buy-to-let. So this is again why I'm so passionate about property development, because if I was a vanilla buy-to-let investor, it would take me a very long time to keep saving up deposits just to buy that one property every 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
But as a developer, I don't take my money as income, as funds, purely because I would get taxed too much. So I actually take the units as my profit share. So we've got Mountbatten Estates, which is the holding company. We've also got Mountbatten Living, which is our investment arm. So every development I do, I take somewhere between maybe 1 or say 10 units from each development, and you get transferred straight into Mountbatten Living. We're building up a huge, that would be even bigger than Mountbatten Estates at some point.
Yeah.
So we'll have a few hundred properties in there, all unencumbered, no mortgage, all just producing an income that, future generations from my family and my kids and my grandkids can all live off.
Wow.
So I'm building, what I'm doing with Mountbatten Estates is a legacy build. It's a legacy business.
It really is.
Yeah, we'll have, I'm sure within the next 20 or 30 years, we'll have a few hundred properties within the Mount Living brand. We're also building up the education as well. We're doing the site finding. I've learned as well, there's a gap in a lot of developers' knowledge in terms of architecture, not knowing what to do when they find that piece of land. They're relying on the architect to tell them what they can, what they can't do with it. There's a gap in their planning knowledge. Okay, well, have you thought about these types of obvious constraints that would stop this development being taken forward? What do you know about the legals? Well, I don't know anything. I'm just going to give it to my solicitor because she can deal with the JV or the option contract or the development agreement. They're outsourcing everything without really knowing anything themselves.
Yeah.
So I've written a legal course, project management course, an architectural course, site finding course, a planning course, an architectural one. So there's about 6 or 7. Oh yeah, funding course.
Funding course as well.
Developers have plug all the gaps in their knowledge that they don't know, so they're not relying on everyone else all the time.
Yeah.
All the little things you don't know. So you don't. Imagine if I could save you £600 every time by not having to go to a solicitor. If I could teach you how to read an option legal pack.
Yeah.
If I could do that, and you can save £600 every time. How many of those have you asked a solicitor in the past to read, and you still think property? So that's what I'm going to be focusing on education. I'm going to be focusing on development, but I'm also going to be focusing on growing that legacy for future generations.
Fantastic. You are one busy man, I'll tell you. And when it comes to the educational and the packages and stuff, where should folks keep an eye out for that? Is it through the Mountbatten Estate site? Will they be able to see things there?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
On the site. We've got a YouTube channel you can go to. I try and so this comes back to what you mentioned earlier about having that knowledge and what have you. I have lots of knowledge, and I want to share it with lots of people. And I've got lots of really good contacts I've built up. And trust me, it's taken me many years, and I've had to kiss frogs along the way to find those right good contacts and those professional skills. And I'm certainly not one for hoarding anyone. any good contacts or professionals. So what I'm doing is I'm introducing these contacts to everyone. So what I do is I try and interview my professional team like John and Richard and everyone else. I'll put that on YouTube so you can benefit from their knowledge as well. So
Brilliant.
if you wanted to any help with knowledge or finding sites or plugging those gaps in knowledge, yeah, feel free to check out YouTube or our website as well. We're also because we've got 5 or 6 family offices that we work with now who are helping funding some of my developments. We're also going to start introducing those, because people normally have 2 issues, don't they, when they're a developer. Help me find sites. So that's hopefully where our VAs that we've trained up. We've trained about 40 VAs now for 40 different developers, believe it or not, over the last year. Because I knew that there's 2 things. People struggle with finding sites, but because I kind of created a system that worked, I kind of, I had a couple of friends, they told people before I knew it, I'd trained 40 VAs for 40 different developers to help them find these creative sites to build their pipeline. But that's one thing, that we struggle with sites, but don't struggle with the money. So we've got 5 or 6 family offices we work with now who are funding my development. So I said, you know what, it's hard enough to find these good people. I'm just going to introduce them to my network as well.
Oh, fantastic. Everything's there. From the start to the finish. I bloody love it. What a man. Outstanding, David. I'll tell you, it's been absolutely brilliant chatting to you today. You've given so many tips and insights and all sorts of things. It's a fascinating journey you've been on. It really is. And everyone listening in, watching in, make sure, go into the show notes page. You'll see all the links off to the website, YouTube channel, everything else. Keep an eye on this man, keep an eye on his team and all the services that they can provide you as well, because he's a special man, he really is. Listen, David, for today, for being on the show, thanks a million.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Richard, for having me. And I'll just finish on one thing. We're actually doing, I just popped into my head, we're doing the 3 of the sites I mentioned, Byfleet, Walton and Sunbury. We're doing these site visits just to show you how we found them, why we found them.
Brilliant.
You'll get to meet the professionals I mentioned today.
Yeah.
And you see the site and you'll be able to ask anyone any questions. And I just want to make sure that you can replicate what I'm doing so you can take it away yourself. So if anyone's free on the 21st of January, but I'd love to see you on site.
There you go. There's an invitation you should definitely be taking up. That's fantastic. Thanks a million, sir.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Richard.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's show as much as I did. Remember, with the guests that you just saw, go into the show notes for the page because all of their links are there so that you can get in touch and to get more information. And talking about getting more information, more guests, more insights, more knowledge, etc., make sure you're subscribed. Get the subscription done, get the notifications on, and then we'll always keep in touch with you every single time a brand new show is going to come out. So thanks for tuning to This Week in Property.